Yo, what's going on? What's going on? I'm Marcus, you're the channel, the Debt Free Dad, but we're following, as always, my family's financial freedom journey. Our journey to become first millionaire generation, first generation millionaires. Now, before we get started, disclaimer: licensed attorney, not your attorney, not legal advice, not financial advice. Go somewhere else if that's what you want to get. In today's video, we're just going to talk a little bit about millionaire statistics. We're going to talk a little bit about some interesting millionaire statistics that I thought were interesting. And, before we even go into the millionaire talk, um, I want to just talk real briefly about, the whole concept of millionaires. Why does it seem like, people are obsessed with becoming millionaires? I think it's one of those societal things like, how like women sometimes have societal pressure like, oh, at this age you should make, or if you want to be successful you have to go to college. I had to get some of my energy drink up in me. But I think the obsession with millionaires just that's kind of the blueprint. What's going on, Britt? Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you. I think the obsession that we have with the term millionaire is because that's just been the threshold that has kind of just subconsciously been set for success. If it was $500,000, everybody would always want to try to get $500,000. But no, millionaire, the reason I think everybody is obsessed with it is because that's just the societal blueprint, the threshold that was just kind of thrown out there for, hey, if you're a millionaire, you're good. So we just kind of accept it and buy it. Now, even though I'm going to be giving millionaire statistics, the most important thing that you got to take away from this is you don't need to be a millionaire to be comfortable. You don't need to be a millionaire to retire comfortable. I know my dad not a millionaire, but I know one thing: he don't owe anybody absolutely nothing. So he living great off of the money that he has. Just the other day he was telling me like, I think I want a boat. Then randomly he called me, he was like, I got a boat. I was like, what? Like just with no thought, he randomly wanted a boat, but he's in the position to do that. Definitely not a millionaire, but the most important thing for a healthy retirement, I think, is hey, if you can hang it up and you don't owe anybody anything, I think you're definitely winning. And so, hey, I appreciate everybody who tuning in. And so, let's just kind of talk about some of these millionaire statistics that I saw. It was actually kind of interesting. And before I even go into the statistics, I'm gonna ask. I got some parents out there, and I realized that the real parents who I respect the most are parents of teenagers. I respect all parents. I respect everybody, but the parents of teenagers. What's going on? What's going on? Thanks for joining in. The parents of teenagers are the realest parents out there because teenagers are ridiculous. So this is a story about, the common sense or the lack thereof. So my son signed up for a summer youth intern program. He's in the 10th grade, right? Now, in this program is interesting because, it could working as a camp counselor, it could be working, but it was something light. And in this program, they only pay kids something small, like 6.25, $7 an hour, right? But because my son goes to like a STEM school, science and technology, he can get an internship that pays him like $15 an hour, right? So he had these two internship opportunities. One is at $6 an hour, 6.75 or whatever the hell it was, and the other one is at $15 an hour, right? Now he wanted to take the $6 an hour internship. Now the reason and justification for it was stupid. He wanted to be a camp counselor at band camp because he watched the movie American Pie and he thought that band camp would be hilarious. So, when I pull up to the house, I see my wife and she looking all flustered. She like, yeah, I just had this conversation with him. He wanted to take this internship paying $6 versus $15 to do something that's tech related because that's the school and the field that he's in. And so there has this big debate developed, right? And so the debate was, as parents, how do you resolve that? My wife was just kind of like, no, you're going to do this one because this is the one that can help you in your career. My initial reaction was, let him do the one that was $6. If he wanted to do the one where he thought it would be fun, but he only makes $6 an hour, let him do that one. And when something comes up and he needs money for it, I would have looked at him and said, hey, if only you had a job that paid you more than $6 an hour, you could afford what the hell you want. But it's interesting to look at people's different parenting ideologies. I kind of err on the side of, if you want to make a stupid mistake, I'm gonna let you make that stupid mistake and scuff your face up. My wife tends to take the approach of, nah, I don't want him to make this stupid decision. But I did sit down with him. We weighed the pros and cons. And it was just interesting that he made that decision on the job he wanted solely based on his emotion because he thought it was fun. He didn't even think logically about the amount of money, how many hours it would take him to buy one pair of one shoelace. He didn't take any of that into consideration. It was absolutely crazy. But nah, you can't let him fall. Nah, I would have let him. He took the $15 hour job, and after we rationalized it, he accepted it. But he initially wanted to just do something that he thought was fun. I would have let him take it. He'd been working for $6 an hour, and the minute he bought one value meal from Chick-fil-A, that would have been like 3 hours worth of work. And it would have hit him at that moment that he made a stupid decision. All right, so that's funny. I'm just reading some of the comments here. That's funny. So let's talk about some of these millionaire statistics. And some of them were actually interesting. Um, so the first millionaire statistic that we're going to talk about is related to how many millionaires are actually out there in the stratosphere, so to speak. So amazingly, 40% of the millionaires worldwide are accounted for by millionaires in the United States. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody. I mean, you know, generally the United States I think is the biggest economy. I think is the biggest producing economy. Then I think China is right behind it, or either it's China then the US. But in any event, definitely not surprised that the vast majority of millionaire wealth in the United States. One of the interesting things was millionaire behaviors, and y'all let me know kind of what y'all think about this topic. But there's a big discussion on how do we judge and evaluate millionaires, because when I started looking at these statistics, I got a little bit confused because are we looking at millionaires, or do we judge millionaires based on individuals, or do we judge millionaires based on overall household income? So if the average household size is like 2.58 in the United States, if that household become first generation millionaires, technically of the adults in the house, they only 500,000 is, if we're looking at it. So it really depends on how this data is compiled. Most places tend to look at it through household. I tend to look at it through household because, hey, if we count everything as one with me and the wifey, hey, if we hit a million, that means we hit a million. I just kind of look at it isolated. That's just kind of my perspective. Y'all let me know how y'all judge it. I think most people tend to think of it as a household thing, but I think that's the way that makes sense. But the first statistic that I have here is, what percentage of millionaires have college degrees? And this number was actually surprising. I actually asked my son, oh man, y'all ever be on camera and, like, I don't know, you get something in your eye and your eye bothering you? That's kind of what's happening to me right now. But I actually asked my son, I was like, what percentage of millionaires in the United States do you think have college degrees? And so, he sat down and looked at it and thought about it for a while. And all of a sudden he said, you know what? I'm going to say 40%. It's actually 86% of millionaires in the United States have college degrees. I thought that number was interesting. Um, yeah, that's true. Yeah, yeah. If you're in New, I'm looking at one of the comments. I see, but yeah, if you live in and your status, you can be a millionaire. But if you're a millionaire in San Francisco, I think is a lot less you can do with your millions as opposed to if you're a millionaire in, like, I don't know, Boise, Idaho, or somewhere like that. So that's definitely a good and fair point. But I think the college education and that being associated with millionaires is a little bit misconstruing, because again, this data I'm looking at, and I'll put the link in the comments below, but this data I'm looking at isn't looking at first generation millionaires. They're actually looking at just millionaires across the board. So I don't think that most, how could I put this? I guess the best way to look at it is, if you're already born into a millionaire family, you're probably going to go to college just because, whether you actually determine you need to do that for the particular field you're in, it is irrelevant because that's just kind of what your family does. So I dived a little bit deeper. I was like, man, well, okay, 86% of millionaires in the US are college graduates. And I wanted to know, well, what are those numbers for first generation millionaires? Like, what percentage of first generation millionaires who didn't inherit their wealth, who didn't get hit the lottery or something, what percentage of first generation millionaires are college graduates? And I was actually shocked because the numbers were damn near identical. 84% of first generation millionaires have college degrees. I was shocked that the number was that high, but I guess, when I took a look at some of the top professions for first generation millionaires, attorney was in there. I think number one was actually teachers. Teachers are smart as hell. How they plan their money. I'm not talking about college professors. I'm talking about like teachers were in there. If it wasn't one number one, it was definitely in the top three. But when you look at the professions that make up first generation millionaires, literally four out of the top five all require some type of advanced education. So I guess it kind of made sense. But the other interesting statistic related to millionaires and college degrees is like one out of four first generation millionaires actually funded their college themselves completely. Like either they got it through scholarships or they worked and paid it off. And I thought that was kind of dope because I know a lot of people with college degrees, but I don't know about y'all. I don't know a lot of first generation millionaires. Hey, I might know a lot of first generation millionaires. They just don't disclose it to me because you can't tell. So that could be the case as well. But I thought, some of these data points were interesting. Another interesting data point that they had up here when you're talking about millionaires, and I thought this one was really interesting. It says 67% of millionaires watch less than 1 hour of television daily, and 63% spend less than 1 hour surfing the internet. And so I don't know. I always find that stat to be a little bit misleading. Y'all know y'all ever hear people who give the bogus, I'm not gonna say it's bogus, but give the stat that like, oh, millionaires read on average, 3 or 7 books or 10 books a month. But the point is, if once you accumulate a certain amount of wealth, you have a lot more time to read a lot more books and to do a lot more things that are productive and that focus on watching Real Housewives of Atlanta. Not that I watch Real Housewives of Atlanta. I'm just using that as an example. I was just using that as an example. But it was interesting to show that, most millionaires really don't succumb and don't engage in a lot of, social media. They don't engage in a lot of television. Most of the things they do are educational, related to self development, personal development, or actually growing their wealth. Yeah. I was looking at the comments. I see it says, some people saying they don't watch TV. I probably watch less than an hour of TV a day. One, because things don't interest me as much. I don't even watch sports. I'm not even watching the NBA playoffs. That's point number one. And point number two, if I do sit down and watch TV, I'm definitely falling asleep before an hour is reached. so I don't know about y'all. If I sit in front of a TV, I'm probably going to be sleeping about 15 minutes. So I generally don't watch that much TV at all. I probably watch more YouTube videos, way more than what I'm watching in television. And so, it was just kind of interesting going over some of these millionaire statistics because it shows two things. One, when you look at the people's background and the people education level who become first generation millionaires is probably something akin or equal to education level or experience level that a lot of us may have. And so I kind of look at that as showing that, it's possible. It's definitely possible. It's definitely attainable. I honestly never thought about becoming a first generation millionaire as a goal. It didn't hit me until I was actually doing my net worth video at the end of the year. And I said, damn, my net worth went up by 40 some odd percent in one year. And once I kind of crossed that $500,000 net worth threshold, I was like, wait a minute, I'm not that far away. I think I could hit this. Maybe I should change the language of my goal as opposed to, as part of his financial freedom journey and a debt-free journey, but more importantly, it's a journey to become a first generation millionaire. Because I think for me, the significance in that is like it'll be a first. I don't know anybody in my family who paid off their house before they was, I ain't gonna say, 60s is in your 65 or 70 years old, but like I don't know anybody in my family who like, oh yeah, I paid my house off when I was 42 or 49 or 55. And so that's kind of one of the things that kind of forced me and was one of the reasons I said, you know what, this is a debt-free journey, but more important is a first generation millionaire journey. And shout out to, everybody who's in the chat room, all the people who channels I check, because, I intend to do like my original plan was I'm gonna pay off these student loans, then I'm gonna worry about all investment properties. But I've been watching a lot of people doing their journey to pay off their primary mortgage. And I sat down and thought about it and I said, you know what? I think I want to know what it feels like to pay my primary mortgage off early as possible. Literally, I just want to know what that feeling is. I actually sat down and did the math, and no matter what avenue I go, if I decide to pay off my student loans and then focus on acquiring and paying off my rental properties and just pay off my primary residence on schedule, or if I do the alternative, I pay off my student loans, then I focus on paying off my primary residence, then after that, focus on acquiring rental properties. When I actually sat down and broke the numbers out, it mathematically kind of played out the same way. Over a certain amount of time period, I'll probably be able to acquire the same amount of properties, make the same amount of progress. So I thought, for purposes of me, I want to know what it feels like. I want to know what it feels like to just wake up in the morning and not owe nobody absolutely nothing outside of taxes and utilities. So I think that's going to be the direction and the move that we make. Like I said when we started this video, even though you hear people throw around millionaire and you see a lot of people doing their net worth, always base your own moves on what you can do. Everybody's situation is different. So don't judge your progress, don't judge your success or failures on what the next person is doing. A lot of times we get caught up like, man, ooh, look how that person's net worth is growing in. And we can't do that. I guess the best way to say it is if you spend so much time looking at what everybody else is doing, you're not really focused on what you can be doing. So the only person who you are in a competition with is yourself. So my goal, and I think the best approach moving forward is long as I'm making progress and long as I'm doing better than what I was yesterday. And that's regarding personal development, health progress, finance progress. I'm only judging myself based on what I've done in the past. So my progress is what I'm judging. I'm not judging anybody else's progress. But I will tell you, I'm happy for everybody else's progress. I love when I see everybody else. Oh man, that's dope. Oh, good job paying off them student loans. I'm looking in the comments here and I see everybody talking about paying off their student loans and not regretting paying their house. I don't know. Like, did y'all do anything crazy? Like, I don't know. Like, if I get to a point where, okay, it's no student loans and I send that last house payment off, I'm not really pressed and excited to go to Ramsey Solutions and do a debt free screen. They ain't going to want me anyway because I'm not a beans and rice guy. But I'm telling you right now, I may go outside in my drawers and run up and down the street screaming I'm debt free just off a GP. And I'm not worried about an indecent exposure charge. I think the cops will understand. I think they will understand that. But I would be so happy and elated that I don't even know how I would do it. But it's interesting because I was listening to a video today where someone talked about being debt free. I'm talking about, and this person was hella young, like maybe 32, house paid off. Him and his wife paid off their house and everything. And it was weird because I can't fathom it because I'm not completely debt free. But they were talking about how they experienced a type of boredom. They always had all these goals to work towards. Like it was either paying off debt or it was either saving their emergency fund, or it was investing. But now that they don't have any debt, now that their emergency fund is fully funded, now that they got the investments on autopilot, they called in and were like, we just kind of bored. We don't know what to do. We don't have anything to do. And I thought that was weird as hell. like I don't know. My first thought was, if you're completely debt free, you got everything fully funded, you're investing 25, 30, 40% of your income for retirement. I think if you're bored, you're probably not giving enough. That's how I would interpret it. I think that there's a lot of things you can do, and if you lose that intensity because you don't pay off debt and you get to a point where you don't have, man, I don't have nothing else to do. Me personally, I would change my goals to giving goals. So, like, okay, now my goals are, I want to pay off this amount of debt. I want to knock out this amount of debt. But as I progress, once I become completely debt free, my goal back is going to change to, I want to allocate this amount of money per year to this particular project. I want to allocate this amount of money a year to starting a scholarship fund so I can pay this amount to help people go to school. So I don't know. It was weird for someone to be debt free and them to say that we just feel like we're bored with our money and we don't have nothing to do. I think it's really three things you can do. If you're already investing it, the other thing is enjoy it. The other thing is to give it and be generous. So, if you if and that's even, I even feel that way now. I'm to a point where I'm not over leveraged and comfortable. So I know at the end of the year, like, I was a person who never gave my alma mater, undergrad, law school, I never gave them any donation. But once I got to a point where I was like, man, things are a little bit comfortable. I'm handling things well. I have a little bit of access. Every year, like clockwork, at the end of the year, I'm like, okay, well, let me make some donations to my schools. Let me make some donations to, nonprofits that I worked at in the past. So, I think that's one of the ways that you can circumvent, if you're to a point in your financial freedom journey, if you're to a point where, you're bored because you don't have enough goals because the debt is paid off, be generous and give. I think that's one of the best things you all can do. Well, I don't want to keep this live going too long, because right now it's family movie night at the Debt Free Dad household. So we just enjoyed a healthy dinner of fried chicken and waffles. I don't know. It's my daughter's favorite. So that's what she wanted. So that's what I made. So what's going to happen is we're going to go downstairs. The kids are going to pick a movie that is a high probability, a high likelihood that this movie is going to be freaking terrible. And I'm probably going to fall asleep on it, like I said earlier, but I'm going to go ahead and try to, tune in. Hey, I appreciate y'all tuning in. Remember, hey, you are your own competition. Judge yourself based on how you were yesterday. You're only competing with yourself. It's me versus me. It's not me or you versus anybody else. It's just you versus yourself. Y'all take care. Be blessed. Peace.